Every outlet reported the cease and desist. Nobody reported what Ben Stiller pulled up 3 minutes later that made the cease and desist make complete, devastating sense. By the time the clip had been shared 7 million times, Trump had posted twice. Neither post addressed what Stiller pulled up. Neither post addressed the question Stiller asked. The question that has been sitting in the record since the moment in March 2026, when the White House used a Tropic Thunder combat scene in a pro-war propaganda video, and a 57-year-old filmmaker sat down in front of camera and said the sentence that the clip travels on. But to understand why the sentence travels, why it circulates beyond the usual celebrity versus Trump 24-hour cycle and stays in the conversation for weeks, you have to understand that Stiller did not arrive at it as a political statement. He arrived at it as a filmmaker making a point about craft, about what movies are for, about the specific relationship between a man who spent 15 years inserting himself into Hollywood productions as a brand extension exercise, and the same man who then spent the next decade calling Hollywood the enemy of the American people, and who then in March 2026 used a Hollywood combat sequence to make war look like entertainment. The cease and desist is a document, but the Zoolander clip is the context, and the context is what the document requires to mean what it means. The cease and desist letter arrives on X at 11:47 a.m. on a Friday in March 2026. The White House had posted a video that morning, a pro-military social media production celebrating what the administration calls Justice the American Way, assembled from clips of Braveheart, Top Gun, Transformers, Iron Man 2, Star Wars, The Last Jedi, and one sequence from Tropic Thunder. Specifically, a scene from Stiller's 2008 satirical war film, in which Robert Downey Jr.'s character delivers a monologue in the middle of what is being presented as heroic combat. The monologue is from a satire about Hollywood's self-important relationship with war movies, a satire about the gap between the way movies depict violence and the way violence actually operates on human bodies in actual conflicts. The White House clips this satire into a real-world propaganda video about real military action and present it as inspirational content. Stiller posts, "Hey White House, please take down the Tropic Thunder clip. We never authorized its use and have no desire to be associated with your propaganda efforts. War is not a movie." For sentences. The last one, "War is not a movie," is a sentence that the clip travels on, not because it is complicated, because it is the simplest possible statement of the exact distinction the White House video has just collapsed, the distinction between a representation of violence and actual violence, between a scene of combat designed to provoke a specific emotional response in a theater audience, and a military operation in which real people sustain real injuries and real deaths that no cut to black resolves. The sentence lands in a particular way that simple, true sentences land when they arrive in the correct context, with the force of something that was already there, waiting to be said by someone with the standing to say it. Stiller is not a political commentator. He is not an activist. He is the person who made Tropic Thunder, who spent 2 years making a film specifically about the irresponsibility of using war as entertainment, who is now watching the White House use his irresponsibility satire as responsible entertainment. The position he occupies is not ideological. It is authorial. He is the author of the work being misused. He is saying, this is not what the work is for. And in saying it, he is also saying, you have demonstrated with perfect clarity that you do not understand the difference between thing and its representation. But Stiller does not stop at War is not a movie. 3 minutes after the cease and desist post, on the same platform, he posts the Zoolander clip, the 2001 VH1 Fashion Awards. Trump at the red carpet, Melania beside him, both speaking directly to a documentary-style camera about the fictional male model Derek Zoolander. Trump says his line, the one and only line he has in the film, the line he delivered without a script at the VH1 Fashion Awards when Stiller pulled him aside and pointed a camera at him. Without Derek Zoolander, male modeling wouldn't be what it is today. Stiller posted with 3 words a caption. He represented something. No exclamation point. No editorial. 3 words that are a direct quotation of what Stiller himself said in 2020 when asked why he refused to edit the Cameo out of film. He represented a certain thing, compressed, updated, stripped a certain that softened description in 2020. Not a certain thing. Something. As in, I do not need to name precisely. You can see it. In the clip, a man at a fashion award ceremony in 2001, delighted to be near the cameras, saying a fictional character's name with the genuine enthusiasm of someone who understands that being on screen in any capacity is better than not being on screen. A man who would spend the next 15 years appearing in Sex and the City and Home Alone 2 in 2 weeks' notice, and half a dozen other productions in the same capacity. The celebrity cameo, the name drop, the walk-on that says, "I am part of this world. I am welcome in these rooms. I belong to the culture that these rooms produce." The split screen, the Zoolander clip on the left, the White House propaganda video on the right, assembles itself on social media within 40 minutes without instruction from Stiller or anyone connected to him. Users place the two videos side by side. No caption. Two uses of Hollywood. The first, a man walking a red carpet and saying a fictional character's name in exchange for the small celebrity of a movie credit. The second, a sitting president using that same Hollywood's work, without permission, without authorization, without understanding, to make a war look like a film he is producing. The word permission runs through both uses and connects them. In 2001, Stiller asked Trump for his presence, and Trump gave it freely, delighted, willing, understanding that the exchange was, your name in the credits, our product elevated by your celebrity. In 2026, the administration took Stiller's work without asking, without permission, without credit, without any mechanism of exchange, and used it to associate the cultural authority of a celebrated film with a military operation that the film was specifically designed to interrogate. Permission is the word that describes a complete arc. In 2001, Trump gave his. In 2026, he took Stiller's. The asymmetry between those two transactions is a complete argument. The argument about what Hollywood was for when it was useful and what it becomes when it is inconvenient, about the relationship between cultural production and political power, about the specific bad faith of a person who spent 15 years using the credibility of artists to elevate his brand, and who has spent the last 10 years calling those same artists the enemy of the American people. The late night segment, the one the clip originates from, captures Stiller sitting across from a host who has asked a standard question about the cease and desist, expecting the standard answer about copyright and creative control. Stiller gives that answer briefly and accurately. Then he says, but the thing that I keep coming back to is not the permissions question. It's the comprehension question. He pulls up the Zoolander clip on the monitor behind him. He lets it play. Trump on the red carpet, the fashion awards, the one line, the delight of a man who's been given a small piece of screen. That's 2001, Stiller says. And I want to be fair, that was a different time. He represented something that felt harmless, aspirational, maybe, wealthy, definitely, but harmless. A guy who liked being in movies, who liked being in the culture, who understood that the culture had a kind of power that money alone doesn't buy, and who wanted some of that power. Pause. And then he spent the next 10 years calling us the enemy. Pause. And then, when he wanted to make a war look cool, he took a piece of our work, without asking, without permission, without credit, and used it, not because he had changed his mind about Hollywood, because he still understood what he understood in 2001, that the culture has a power that authority alone doesn't produce, and he wanted it. He closes the Zoolander clip. War is not a movie, he says, but he has never stopped treating everything like it's a movie he's producing. And the difference between a movie and the thing it represents is the difference between Derek Zoolander and a man in an actual war. One of them is fiction. One of them is dying. The studio is completely quiet. The clip ends. The segment ends. The permission question and the comprehension question and the Zoolander clip and the Tropic Thunder cease and desist and the White House propaganda video and the one line from 2001 that has been sitting in the record for 25 years are all in the same archive now, arranged in sequence, requiring no editorial assistance from anyone willing to look at all of them at once. Trump posts at 2:18 p.m. He calls Stiller one of the most overrated comedians in Hollywood history and notes that Zoolander 2 was one of the biggest box office disasters ever made. He says Stiller is a loser who nobody watches anymore and that Tropic Thunder was not that funny. He does not address War is Not a Movie. He does not address the Zoolander cameo or what it represented or the arc between 2001 and 2026. He does not address the permission question or the comprehension question. He addresses sequel box office returns. The split screen assembles. The Zoolander clip on the left, the sequel box office post on the right. The permission that was freely given in 2001 and freely taken in 2026. The culture that was worth belonging to when it elevated a personal brand, and worth dismissing when it refused to serve a political one. The archive does not require permission to exist. It requires only that someone willing to read it in sequence pull up the right clip at the right moment in the right studio, and let the 25 years of documentation do what 25 years of documentation does when it is arranged correctly. He represented something. 3 words. 25 years of record. And a sentence that contains everything the record contains. War is not a movie. If this changed how you see power, hit subscribe. If it didn't, watch it again. The details you missed the first time are the ones that matter most. Notifications on. Next one drops soon.